Welcome back to another episode of Tune In with Dev. My name is Dev, and we're up to episode 17. I told y'all we're going to have some more additions, we're going to have some more upgrades, and that includes bringing on guests. And when I say bringing on guests, I had to, for the very first episode, there's only one person I thought of that I could have on here. It's my older brother, my role model, father figure. He holds a lot of titles, actual father now, but my big brother, Derick Thomas.
What's up? What's up? Appreciate you having me on the pod. Appreciate it.
Yeah. But I mean, since people don't know who probably neither one of us are, kind of just tell the people about yourself, like who you are, your name, like your job, like what you do, like what you like to do for fun, maybe your favorite football team.
Oh man. Well, start with the football team. The Cowboys. Of course, I think that's both of our favorite team growing up with our grandparents. That was their favorite team. So of course we're gonna, follow suit. But unfortunately, like they don't always make the best decisions. But I'm his older brother, as he mentioned. I work for the state for CPS, and I just like spending time with my family, and in the free time, and going to the gym, doing anything outdoors, cooking. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think we got a lot of similarities as well too, in
Yeah.
that sense.
But I mean, with this episode, he is a new father, so I kind of wanted to bring in somebody who has, been through like the first years, almost year or so with a child, and just having that expertise and just going through it in a sense of how that you can offer some advice, mental health advice, and like how that all works together. So I mean, going back and like just kind of going back to the start for you, we grew up in a single household. So like how was it like growing up or having to grow up as, that person who was the father figure, who was the man of the house at a young age with a younger brother, so you had to have a lot of responsibility.
I'd say it was, like just like you said, like being an example. Everything you do is under a microscope. You got to think like, I got a younger brother, which is you, obviously. So, anytime I see you, I know like, okay, if I do this, then possibly this could be something he watches and sees like, okay, like I want to do that or think it's okay to do that. So you got to make the best decisions. And I think like being a father is ultimately kind of like similar, parallel process pretty much. When you have a son, you see like, okay, you do things, you have to be the best representative at all times, pretty much. So I kind of feel like that's how it is being an older brother, be the best representative, and being a father of the house as a younger, having a younger brother. I had to make sure I made the best decisions, basically. Yeah.
Piggybacking off of that, being an older brother, you have to kind of set like the right example, the perfect example, quote unquote. Like having like how was like the pressure of having that on your shoulders while also, growing up, as a teenager yourself or as a kid yourself, you're still a kid, but you're still having to, teach, and you're still having to become an adult yourself by also teaching your younger brother or having that person looking up to you.
I just feel like there was a lot of trial and error. I mean, you can do something, you're gonna make mistakes. Of course, you got young brain, you're a teenager, you're gonna make mistakes. But I think ultimately just being like that good example and just checking yourself. Even as a father, I feel like that's the same thing. You want to make sure you're making the best decisions, and ultimately, you're not always gonna make the best decisions, and that's okay. But you got to just reel it back in. Do things that keep you level-headed, hang with other like-minded people, other men who are on the same path as you, who, for instance, go to the gym, go to church, even going out to eat. There's times where you and I go eat, regroup, things like that. Because it's tough. It's tough for the women. I feel like for the men as well. There's a different side of it. Both equally, I feel like, or have their pros and cons. But I feel like it's always good to take care of yourself because then you can take care of your family and take care of friends and whoever else you need to take care of.
And so that like kind of brings me to like the point of in your life where you moved to San Antonio. I feel like that was like a big jump to like kind of becoming your own man in the
Mm,
sense of like living on your own.
yeah.
I'm still in high school. I think I'm like a freshman, and you left, and then you went off to live on your own, and we helped you move out there and all that stuff. But like, how was that like experience of moving to a whole different city, like 4 hours away from like your family, like your home base, like your people that you live with your whole life, to living, you know, with a random roommate and at University Oaks in San Antonio, Texas, at
Mm.
UTSA?
Man, I say like it has the pros and the cons. Like I said, the cons I say obviously being away from family, being in the unknown. But I say there's a lot more pros to it because not only are you, and I suggest anybody who can, leave the town you grew up in to move somewhere else to experience a different culture. Like you grow up around the same people, you do the same things, which is great. Like love my family and friends, like they know I love them. However, I adapted my own style, my own take on things, and just got to see a different side of what goes on in other cities and other places and schools. Like it was a great experience. I was able to figure stuff out on my own, really build an independent type of mindset, and I think it made me better overall. It's going to have the times where you're sad because you're not around the people who you grew up around, but going back and seeing them and just experiencing and appreciating those moments you are down there is what matters. But I would suggest to anybody, leave the town and city you're from, go somewhere else, go experience other parts of the world because even if it's not that far, 300, 400, 500 miles away, just go there and experience it.
Yeah, I feel like I had the same experience, with me. I mean,
Yeah.
moving all the way to Abilene from Houston is like 7 hours. So I feel like, you kind of gain that sense of like independence and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of grow up and you learn like responsibility. Living at home,
Yeah.
you're comfortable. And it's like, I feel like you have to learn to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think everybody should like experience because I feel like that has made us into the people and the men that we are today in the sense of like being the head of the household, being, like a man and learning to have responsibility and not just relying on like your parent or like your girl to help clean up or,
Right.
because even growing up with just like a single parent household with just our mom, like I feel like we grew up like very mature in the sense of having to learn how to do quote unquote men and women like responsibilities like from cleaning the bathrooms to folding clothes to vacuuming to you know pulling weeds and stuff like that. So I just
Mm-hmm.
think that kind of shaped us to be who we are today. And so with like living out here, you don't know anybody, so you got to make friends, and then ultimately like meeting like the love of your life, your wife
Mm-hmm.
today, who is the mother of your child. It kind of like I guess explained to us like how it was like living out here with no like support in a sense, like you feel like you're by yourself, I'm guessing, and then just also ultimately like meeting your wife and how like how it like it is today, and how does it feel to be married more than like or more than like what I'm saying, like more than a year, more than 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just to give some context, we've been married. Uh, Man, we've been married since 2019, so we've been married for 6 years. It'll be in November. So, yeah, I mean, when I first moved down here, it kind of felt like I was on a probationary period. Like I'm only down here until I, hit this date. I graduate school. I'm back to Houston. That's what I know. That's where I'm from. And I met her, and I think that kind of changed. Like I feel like they say home is where the love is at, and like we fell in love, and that made me feel like this was my home now. When you take on a family and you meet somebody, that's where your home is. So anywhere we move, that's where my home is. So met her. We're together for a couple years. I proposed, then we got married to, like I said, 2019. Been together for 10 years, and yeah, man, it's a love. And we now have a son. He's almost a year old. He'll be a son. I mean, he'll be a year old next month.
Yeah.
So, man, it's a great experience, man. And I know one day y'all experience that because
Yeah.
you're newly engaged. So,
Yeah,
congrats.
and that's why I feel like
Yeah.
our upbringing, our lives, our paths are kind of like mirror each other because I feel like it's kind of the same for me in the sense of, me being out in Abilene and you being in San Antonio, not a city that we're not from,
Mm-hmm.
meeting the person that you married and the person that I'm marrying on like in October of
Mm-hmm.
this year, but it's just like kind of like having that sense, having that feeling of like home and
Yeah.
like in your person, and it's like I think that's like one of like the main reasons, like that's like one of like a that's like a big thing for us in the sense of finding like a partner, and like the partner that we do have, you feel like at home, you feel like at peace, you feel like that love that we got from like our grandparents and our parents, and it's just like I feel like that's just like a big thing that was for me. I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for you, but
Yeah, definitely,
yeah.
definitely.
And then yes, you are a new father, so kind of I guess walk us through fatherhood, parenthood. The ups and downs. Obviously, like I'm not saying downs is like a negative, but I'm saying like there's obviously like less sleep and things like that.
Yeah.
But like, what are like some of like the pros, cons, the struggles, the good parts, the like like the you find like a new love and that you never experienced, and then also like what is like some advice that you can give to like new parents out there who don't know what to do from left to right and right to left.
Well, I mean, definitely way more pros than cons, but obviously, for keeping it real, there's cons like to the situation. The sleep. I'd say figure out a sleep schedule. Definitely figure out what works best for you and your partner. Like, if you're a night owl, take the night shift, let them sleep in the morning, or vice versa. Make sure you're very intentional with your list when you do baby showers. Things that are going to be important: diapers, 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 because diapers are $30, $40 every time you get in a big box. And think about it: you're using about 6 to 8 a day, probably more than that, and it can start to like go pretty quick. I say make sure you check in with your partner. That's important. I feel like mental health is important, and on both ends. And I feel like checking in is like the number one important part because you have this person who just birthed a baby, and they're taking care of somebody, but I feel like that person needs to be taken care of as well. And do things that y'all enjoy doing before having a baby, whether it's watching a show, a movie, eating a certain candy. It don't matter. It could be the smallest thing, but if anything that could bring you joy, make sure you do that because it's a process. I feel like once you reach like one is where you start to kind of like climb the hill, climb over that wall. But they say the terrible twos comes next. So we still got time to see where that leads. But I say just going back to the baby bit, I'd say when they're born, just make sure, like I said, you're checking in. Uh, be intentional with your schedule. Use the time that you have off. If you get any type of leave, use that time to kind of like get everything together. Plan ahead. Don't have the baby without a plan. Talk about it, the whole pregnancy. I'm talking about month from the first month, from the month you find out till the ninth, till the month that they're born. Be there for them in the labor and delivery room. You know, that's a crazy experience in itself. But just make sure you're there for them. Make sure you listen to their wants and their needs, um, and that's it. Be there for your partner. I say that's number one, and stick with that, and you'll be okay.
Well, I mean, that's all I have for today, but I mean, we are moving forward with this podcast, trying to elevate, make the podcast better each and every single episode. That's some of the advice that I've been getting, like some reassurance that I am going in the right way. So, I mean, I hope that y'all learned something or took something from today's episode and is able to, apply it in your own life as far as, just anything that you heard. But I mean, we're about to have some more guests coming on each and every single episode. It's gonna be some by myself. I mean, I appreciate y'all for stopping by. I appreciate you for stopping by.
Yes, sir.
You
Yes, sir.
know, not everybody wants to talk about, like real life, real life things going on, like especially mental health. And I think that's something that I'm trying to be, the stigma to push forward to make it normalized that it's okay to talk about stuff like this or have a conversation, with your family, your brother, your sister, your mother, whoever it is, and just make it normalized to, it just so that way you feel comfortable and not just dealing with everything in your own mental and on yourself. So, I mean, I appreciate y'all for stopping by. I appreciate you stopping by.
Yes, sir.
That's it for
Appreciate
episode
it.
17. Peace.
Hey.
It's a wrap.